Morning, everybody. My mics don't work, so I'm hoping you're getting this. Actually, I'm going to bring the other thing back. Let's see. Be right back. Oh my gosh, right. Oh, good morning, everybody. Just gonna see if I'm live or not. Should be. There we go. Nope, wrong one. It would be really nice to know if that's what I wanted. That's what I want. There we go. There we go. I wasn't sure if I could hear myself or not. So now I have playback. Yay. So right now I'm in the book 0 Days. A little backstory on this book. Uh, I actually read that other book by Ruth Ware. What was that book called? Well, anyhow, I got it wet. Actually, baby girl got it wet. So I bought the book, and it had mixed reviews. And from that point on, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna read it. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did because it was good. In fact, Ruth Ware is one of my favorite authors. So, and right now, Jack, that's her nickname, Jacinta, is running from the law because she, was in the interview room being asked questions about her husband's untimely death. Because before this all happened, you're going to have to ask a lot nicer than that if you want a treat. Come over here and sit down. Yeah, come over here and sit down. Come over here and sit down. Okay. Anyhow, before all this happened, they're hired by companies to test the strengths and weaknesses of their IT system. So what happens is that when Jenny gets home, unbeknownst to her, she finds her husband with heads, stones on his head, curdled in blood at the desk. And waits however long to call the police. And they're wondering, the police are wondering, it's all sounding so suspicious that, she would wait so long. And now she was in the police station answering questions, and she wants a lawyer to protect her rights later on. And they ask her if while she waits, do you want anything to drink? Coffee, tea, whatever. Oh yeah, have some tea, coffee, and so while that happens, is that she gets a weird email from this, I call it a generic company, for life insurance for her husband. And so, all the police need is a motive. That's all they need. It's a motive. So right now she's back at the house trying to scale the house to get in there, and she found the person that killed her husband. She found out how they got in. So that's where we're at right now. I was in unless I was thoroughly mistaken about the crack, this was likely the way Dave's killer had entered the house, breaking the fans as they did. Sit. Oh, you little stinker. You little stinker. Come here. Come here. Sit like a good girl should. Good girl. So anyhow, I was sorely mistaken about the crack. This was likely the way Gabe's killer had entered the house, breaking the fans as they did. The thought made me feel a momentary wash of sickness. Whoever had slit Gabe's throat, I was almost certainly standing in their footsteps, my feet resting where theirs had. Sit. Less than 48 hours ago. The last person to touch that fan, this window latch, and the last person to drop the sash and slide their way quietly through the narrow opening, just as I was now doing. The last person who had killed Gabe. Sit. For a second, as I lowered myself to the bathroom floor, I thought I might throw up. I wasn't just the realization that I was following the same route as my husband's killer. It was everything. The nauseating mix of familiarity of home and the terrible alienness of what was happening. The bathroom was still dull, full of my clutter, makeup spilling out of containers, nail varnish leaking onto the shelf of the mirrored cabinet. Gabe's beard wax was sitting by the sink, and the sight of it brought a lump to my throat. There was a fingerprint there was fingerprint dust on the door handle, and when I stepped out in the door hallway, plastic duck boards had been laid across the floor to preserve the blood splatter and footprints. In the air was an alien tang of chemicals, presumably from the wipes and sprays they used to process the scene. Most sickening of all, I could still smell Gabe's blood, the metallic butcher shop reek that assaulted me the moment I opened the front door just a couple nights ago. All right, I'll get you some more. Sit like a good girl should. Suddenly, I was not sure if I could do this. I stood for a long moment, holding on onto the banister, fighting the panic that was threatening to overwhelm me. Gabe's absence had never felt so huge and so real as it did now. He was gone. I had spent every waking moment since his death trying to understand that simple fact, sit, trying to believe it. But now, here, surrounded by our shared belongings, the knowledge crashed over me like a wave. One too big, one too big to fight. I, I found I had sunk to my knees, still, still holding the banister, and a moan was coming from my mouth. It was Gabe's name. I wanted him so much in that moment. I would give it anything, anything to hear the key in the lock. His voice calling up the hallway. Babe, I'm home. I shut my eyes. Babe, you got this. I didn't have this. I didn't have this at all. I couldn't do it, except I had to, because no one else was going to. Dragging myself upright, I took a long, shuddering breath and forced myself down the hallway to the room that functioned as our spare room and my office, trying to focus on what I needed to do and get out. Sit, sit. In here, it was easier to ignore the police presence. They had clearly been through the room in a cursory fashion. My laptop was missing, and some were my files, but otherwise it was largely undisturbed. I mentally crossed my fingers, and as I made my way over to the built-in wardrobe in the corner. If I watched, if what I wanted was gone, then this whole trip was for nothing. And I had just wasted an hour of precious time. I knew exactly where it should be, at the bottom of the wardrobe, half hidden behind a pile of suitcases, a box of Christmas decorations, and a collapsed laundry rack. The junk was still there when I opened the door, and I lifted out, stacking it piece by piece behind the door, and breathed a sigh of relief. There it was, an unassuming little 40-liter rucksack, one half of an identical pair. My go bag. Gabe was Gabe had one for years, ever since he started working in online security. It wasn't uncommon for him to get panicked. They've got an urgent situation, call from a client, and have to jump in the car and spend an unspecified number of days and nights combing through server logs. His his was full of computer equipment, diagnostic tools, spread leads, and cables, plus a spare pair of underpants and a vacuum packed tub of his favorite coffee. The one thing I'm not liking about this book so far, long chapters. Short notice calls from physical pen testers were left. Before I met it had never occurred to me to have a go bag myself. But he had nagged me into the big set. And I was like, oh, I could say. Stinker Babaroosh. Well, at least this way I know if anyone's watching. Yeah, I could check the comments on this one. Isn't that cool? You want? Okay, I'll give you a couple more treats. There we go. Come here. Sit. I unclipped the top and took a quick look inside, checking that everything was still there, but it seemed to be completely untouched. I guess that the police had focused all their efforts so far on the actual crime scene and hadn't given the rest of the house more than a cursory over. Good girl. Cursory, where am I? Cursory once over for anything obvious. After all, there would be more than enough time to comb through looking for weapons and drugs once the scene downstairs was processed. I made a quick, rough inventory of what I knew was in there: spare laptop and charger, mobile phone charger, and a couple of changes of clothing. Mostly the kind of comfortable, dark stuff I typically wore on jobs. I also had a bunch of tools and equipment that the police would certainly have confiscated if they had found them, including lockpicks, various shims, a sheaf of fake credentials and badges for companies like Intel, Hewlett Packard, and various office cleaning firms, and a device for cloning security passes. There were also some more practical bits and pieces reflecting the long days and nights that jobs often entailed. Snacks, energy bars, painkillers, water, and a wash bag containing the basics of a bathroom refresh. Finally, there was a credit card, which was probably useless to me now, and at one point there had been $100 in cash. Unfortunately, at some point, Gabe or I had clearly raided it for taxi money, since the notes were no longer there. There wasn't much I couldn't do about the cash, aside from the cursory former itself. m- the the cursing my former self. The only question was what else, if anything. I needed. I tried to think. I didn't want to add too much weight or bulk. As it was. The bag was just about small enough to pass as a commuter's backpack, which meant I could blend in on the tube or in an office. Strapping on a tent would make me stand out, as well as making the whole thing more tiring to carry. But there was enough space at the top to add some essentials. I had a pair of fake glasses in there already, along with an arm brace and sling that had got me out of a number of sticky situations in the past. It was amazing how helpful people were to a woman with her arms sling, holding more security doors open, entering pins on keypads, that kind of thing. But I probably needed warmer clothing. The kit had been put together on the basis of passing unnoticed in an office, not going to the out on the run. There was a basket of clean washing on the landing. Excuse you, even puppies burp and fart. Ah, there was a basket of clean washing on the landing, waiting to be put away, and And I grabbed, where was that? And I grabbed a few pairs of socks, some warm tops, and extra underwear, as well as a fleece hoodie that could double as a pillow or an emergency, a fake baby bump. What else? My passport. But no, I was pointless. By the time I got to a port, my name would be on a watch list. And besides, I needed to be there. My single aim was to figure out what had really happened to Gabe. And I couldn't do that from the Cayman Islands, even if I were able to get there. I was about to pack up and leave, and when an idea occurred to me. Gabe's private key, the code that gave access to the Bitcoin wallet. Had he told me there where it was? And now I couldn't remember it. It was written down in the back of the book. I knew it. I knew that. I just couldn't recall which one. Shit. Shit. Why hadn't I made an effort to commit it to memory? I shut my eyes, trying to remember. He had said it like it was funny. That much I recalled. Like a joke. Where would you hide a key? Most of our books were downstairs in the living room, and I couldn't face going down there. But yet, at least, I told myself it was because I was worried. The police officer stationed outside might notice someone moving about behind the thin curtains. But in truth, it wasn't that, or not completely. The truth was I wasn't ready to go back down to where Gabe had died. There were a couple of bookcases in our bedroom, and I decided to try there first. If I didn't turn anything up, then I could decide whether to risk the living room. Our bedroom was somewhere harder to enter, was somehow harder to enter than the spare room. It just looks so normal. There were my clothes strewn carelessly over the little antique sofa at the foot of our bed. Gabe's jeans neatly folded over the radiator. His book was still splayed on the bedside table along with a handful of change. Even the duvet was still rumpled the way we had left it in the morning before the Arden Alliance pen test. How long ago was that? I counted back. One, two. That was 3 nights ago. The last time I had slept in my own bed with Gabe's body pressed against mine. It felt like another lifetime, like a different person had lain there with him, one who wasn't raw with grief and ambushed by unwanted memories every few minutes. If only, if only I had stayed there with him, his warm body wrapped around mine. If only I had told him I didn't feel well. If only I'd known, but I didn't. I couldn't have. And if I'd stayed home, curled up on the couch, watching TV instead of sneaking around in Arden's Alliance server's room, then maybe none of this would have happened. Or perhaps I would be dead too. Would that really be so bad? I knew that I should get what I needed and get out, but I couldn't stop myself from walking slowly across the room to Gabe's side of the bed and crawling into the space into i- his body had his body had left. I laid down and pressed my face into the side of the pillow. It smelled of him. It smelled of Gabe. I felt tears threatening at the back of my throat, and I knew in my heart that I was doing what I was doing was dangerous. I was doing I was going to lose it. And the police were going to find me there, hours later, still hugging Gabe's pillow, having sobbed myself into cato- catatonia. But God, I didn't want to leave. I could just stay curled up for a few minutes, the eyes closed, pretending that everything was okay. That Gabe was just downstairs making coffee. That any minute he would be coming up, balanced in his hands, and he tried to open the bedroom door with his elbow. That's very true. She's grieving. She's grieving him right now. She really is. Anybody that's lost a loved one knows that. She's grieving right now. Heck, when my mother passed away in November of 19, that full year, I, every waking moment, I, I, my mental, just to keep me mentally in check, she was at dialysis or she was in the nursing home. I couldn't go there. I mean, I could go there, but she wouldn't be there. But she was there mentally for me. But point being is that you physically or mentally put that person there where they need to be so that you can go on. It's very difficult. It is. But you'll get through it. I felt an owl of grief. An owl. I felt an animal howl of grief rise up inside me. I pushed it back down and forced myself to sit up, swing my legs over the side of the bed, and take a deep, shuddering breath. You got this. I don't, I thought desperately. I do not, in any possible sense, have this. And if I do have it, I don't want it. I don't want all of this on my shoulders being left up to me. But I have no choice. And I knew that if it had been me lying there, my blood all over the living room floor, there was no way Gay would have curled up in the dent I had left in our bed and given up. No way at all. He would not have rested for a single moment until he had dragged me down. Whoever did this and destroyed them, Gabe would never have given up, so neither could I. I stood up. His bookshelf was beside the bed, the water glass from 3 nights ago still sitting on it, the mark of his lips on the rim. But I toughened my heart, pushed the glass aside, and began looking through the books. My head to one, my head to one side, and I read the titles on the spines. A Confederacy of Dunces, nope. Vermat's Last Therup, no. Theorem, no. The Cement Garden, Empire of Pain, The Music of Primes, nope, nope, and nope. I scanned the shelves, growing frustrated now, looking at the familiar, Gabish mix of literary novels and sciencey nonfiction. Our tastes had never converged that much. I leaned more towards Neil Gaiman, Ursula K. Le Guin, Robin Hobb. Oh, Robin Hobbit's not really my taste either. But anyway, you're a basic science fiction fantasy nerd, which made it all hard to recall the title that Gabe had mentioned. Still, it was none of these here. It was ready to. I was ready to swear to that. And then I saw it, not upright, but the shelf. Not upright on the shelf, but lying crossways, wedged into the gap between the books and the shelf above. Old battered, the schlocky 1960s jacket, peeling and a little torn. The Glass Key by Dashiell Hammett. I heard Gabe's deep, amused voice rumble in my ears. A key for a key. Get it? No. I pulled it out carefully because the paper was old and brittle, and I could feel the glue on the spine was ready to crack, and opened it. Inside the front cover were three long codes, carefully written out in pencil, each over 20 characters long, and a mix of numerals and letters. One of those entries, and I had no idea which one, represented somewhere north of 20,000 pounds, although the amount fluctuated so much that it was impossible to know on any given day how much was in there. And all I needed to access it were these numbers. There was no time to write out the full strings, and I certainly couldn't memorize them. So I picked up the book and stuffed in the top rucksack. So as I did so, a noise from the outside made my pulse jump. It was a noise I knew well. One I'd make one I'd made myself just a few nights ago, in fact. It was something It was someone kicking over the milk bottles on the front steps. Bowls, I heard from the front garden. Sorry, just tipped over the milk bottles. Was a, there was a crackle of radio, inaudible words blaring out under a blast of static. And when I peered cautiously through the bedroom curtains, I saw a police officer standing in front of my door, holding a mobile phone. I hadn't thought it would be possible I think it would be possible for a heart to beat any faster, but now it's sped up. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, gotcha. Heading in now, but I'm pretty sure she won't be here. I'm not I've not seen anyone except the postman. Hang on. He's a bit stiff. Shit. I have to get out of here. Shouldering the bag, I ran swiftly and quietly as I could down the corridor. But I had barely made it halfway to the top of the stairs when I heard the second key turn in the door. For a moment, I froze, looking longingly at the bathroom door. But it was in sight on the front door, which I was about to open at any second. Instead, I turned around and bolted it back into the bedroom, pulling the door closed behind me. Great, she was now locked in her bedroom door. Instead, that's it. No. Inside, I stood with my eyes shut and my ear pressed to the door. The better to hear, the better to hear, excuse me, what was going on downstairs. Excuse me again. There was a metallic bang as the front door flung open and latched bang against the hallway. My paint work. And then the heavy tread of a police officer stepping inside my house. I held my breath, listening, wondering what I should do. I'm inside, I heard faintly from from downstairs. Can't see anything amiss. Let me have a rest. There was an answering crackle from the radio, and I heard the officer's feet on the hallway floor and the screech of the squeaky boards as he stepped into the living room. Oh, he's a big guy. Thank God for all Victorian houses. I carefully turned the handle of the bedroom door and put one foot out of the landing, only to bolt back inside as I heard the crackle of the radio and the officer steps in the hall again. Nothing down here. I just I'll just look upstairs. Shit. Now I was really trapped. There was no way I could leave with him coming up the stairs, and no way he wouldn't come into the bedroom. Would he would he search the wardrobes under the bed? For a moment, I stood frozen in indecision, and then, at the sound of the creaking tread of the bottommost stair, I stood myself out of it. What I had told myself back at Arden Alliance was just as true now as it had been then. In this job, doing nothing was a risk in itself. Something, sometimes you you had to go on your gut. I ran across the bedroom, avoiding the loose floorboard under the window, wrenched wrenched open the wardrobe, and leapt inside, yanking the door shut behind me. Just in time, the clothes were still swinging on their hangers when I heard the bedroom door creak open and the sound of the officer's boots on the rug. My heart was thumping in my ears, and I clasped the bag hard to my chest, as though it could muffle the sound. Through the crack of the wardrobe door, I could see his shape, dark against the window, and I watched, breath breath bated as he bent and looked under the bed, then straightened. Even through the door, I could hear the heavy sound of his breathing. Yeah, he's out of. Yeah, he's a big guy. He's literally out of shape. He sounded like he had a cold. Perhaps he was asthmatic. Could police officers have asthma? If he wasn't very fit, then I might be able to outrun him. I just hope it wouldn't come to that. I closed my eyes, willing myself to not to make a single second a sound, even though the wardrobe was painfully cramped and the full fur stole. I had brought I had bought for Hell's wedding. Hell is her sister-in-law, Gabe's sister, Helena. Hell, that's what she calls her. Um, was tickling my nose. Please, please, I begged him telepathically. Please, get the fuck out. And then, almost as I wheeled it into it, he turned and I saw him walk back towards the door. That's good. I let out a silent, shuddering breath of relief, and then I realized, for a second, stupidly, I almost thought I'd gotten away with it, that the officer had put it down to a noise from outside. And then he turned on his heel and came back into the room, and I knew I was sunk. There was only one thing in my favor now, and that was the element of surprise. With a wild yell, I crashed out of the wardrobe, sending the doors flying open and the officer tripping backwards in shock. He recovered and came for me round the end of this bed, and I dodged right, not left, as he apparently had been expecting, leaping over the mattress and using its springs to catapult myself toward the bedroom door. Stop! I heard him yell from behind me. Stop, police! But I didn't. I was I wasn't stupid enough for that. Instead, I pounded down the corridor and then paused with a split second of indecision at the landing, downstairs and onto the street, or out the back way that I'd come. Both had risk. In front of the house was the police car, and then the real possibility of another officer inside it, warned by the commotion inside the house. But going out the back meant if they had closed off the alleyway, I would be trapped. There was no time to weigh up the options. Barely pausing, I slammed in the bathroom, yanked open the sash window, and threw myself out onto the icy roof. Ooh! rolling across the gravelled surface with puddle ice crackling at my back. There was no time for the careful, controlled descent I planned. Instead, I almost launched myself off the other side of the roof into my neighbor's garden. His fence would have make one more obstacle for the police if they were coming out of my back door. Stop! I could hear from behind me and the sound of heavy panting breaths. I'm ordering you. I landed with a thump, a shock radiating up through my knees, caught sight of my elderly neighbor's startled face, gazing out of his kitchen window, then straightened painfully and made for the gate into the alleyway. I had to get out of before the officer called for backup, and the alley became a dead end trap. The gate was padlocked, and there was no time for picks, even assuming the rusted mechanism worked. Instead, I threw the go bag over into the passage, backed up, and took a short run up the wall. I dug my fingers into the crumbling mortar at the top, ignoring the screeching protests of my nails, and then cracked, and as they cracked and splintered, scrabbled onto my until my foot found a convenient loose brick, and then pulled myself up to flop chest down on top of the wall. I felt it as soon as I landed, a stab pain in my side, just below my ribs. Glass. A naughty a naughty bit of clematis. Okay. There was no time to pause and check. From up here, I could see the police officer levering himself painfully out of the back. I'm sorry. Painfully out of the bathroom window. His radio, his radio to his mouth, and I could hear wheezing breaths and the crackle of response codes. Ignoring the tearing noise from my coat, I swung one leg over, then the other, and landed on all fours in the back alley. From here, I ducked down below the shelter of the garden wall, so the officer on the roof couldn't see me and ran in the wrong direction. Not towards the open end of the alley, but the other way, towards the blind end. At last, when the sound of the police radio had faded into the distance, I had reached a promising looking gate on the opposite side of the alley, one with a bright, shiny padlock. These gardens belonged to the houses of Lancaster Lane, a terrace that backed onto Salisbury Lane and shared our back alley. If I could get across, if I could get access to one of those houses. Oh, how you guys liking it so far? I pulled my picks and, with trembling fingers, set to work as fast as I could, praying that I could get it open before Officer Weezy made it over the garden wall. Sorry, it's funny. Um, Luckily, it wasn't anything fancy, just a regular off the peg lock from Halford's. And it was only a few moments up until I opened with a reassuring click and slipped through it into the neat little garden inside. There, I stood up, smoothed my hair, and tried to calm my trembling breathing. This bit was going to be the hardest in some ways. I had just I just had to hope my cheerful girl next door demeanor would see me through. With my best confident smile, I rapped on on the door and stood back and waited for the for what felt like a long time. No one came, and I looked over my shoulder, feeling my anxiety rising. But just as I was considering trying another garden or getting out my picks again, I saw a shadow behind the glass, heard the sound of a key in the lock, and saw a woman's astonished face peering out at me. What the hell are you doing in my garden? She had a baby on her hip. I made my smile a little wider and a lot more rueful. I'm so sorry. The gate was open, a lie, of course. But I just had this hope she'd blame her partner. I'm your neighbor from number, I paused, infinitesimally, not wanting to give my own house number in case the police came knocking. 45. My name's Ella. This is stupid, but I locked myself out. I thought I could get out of the gate at the end, but I couldn't remember the code. Do you know it? I got no idea. She looked me up and down, apparently assessing her initial hostility. I smiled at the baby and smiled back. From far up the alley, I heard a crash and faint sound of swearing. it's it sounded like the police officer was over the wall. Can you imagine? Seriously, can you imagine a fat cop getting out of a bathroom window and then getting over over like a stone or a stone wall and him swearing about it too? I'm sorry, it's funny. I was the one to make up her mind, but I couldn't ask. She had to offer, and then, thank God she did. You want to come through the house? Would you mind? I'm sorry. It's not funny. This part's not funny. I'm still reeling from the cop getting over the wall. She stood back and I followed her into a tiny kitchen that was messier, more kid-friendly version of ours. Cupboards fastened with child locks and fridge spattered with magnetized letters. Thank you. You're a lifesaver. I was chattering now as the back door closed behind us, almost giddy with relief. I feel like such a plunker. Turns out the key doesn't work in the back door. Ours is like that. She was thawing She was sawing a bit as she led me through the narrow hallway to the front door. Only locks from the inside. No worries. What number did you say you were? 45. I had to pray she didn't know her neighbors too well. But this was London, and we were far enough down the road. I thought the the odds were good. Really nice to meet you. Nice to meet you too. We were at the front door now, and I opened it and stepped through, barely trying to disguise my relief that the empty patrol car free out the empty patrol car free out road outside. Thanks again, I said. Take care. Take care, she echoed, and then closed the door behind me. Is she going to steal a police car? People that read literally know what I'm going to say and can understand. You get this sense of accomplishment, sense of relief, sense of doing something, and much more. You do. How many pages is this chapter? 2. Oh, sweet. Just 3 pages. Let's do this one and then I'll be done for the day, I think. As I turned on Lancaster Lane onto the main road, I shoved my hands into the pockets of my coat to stop them shaking. The relief I had felt at getting away from Officer Weeksy was fading, and I could feel a growing pain in my side where I had landed on top of the wall. There was no time to stop and investigate. The most important thing was to put some distance between myself and Salisbury Lane, where the police cars were probably already amassing. After that, God, what should I do? I needed money and a plan. Hell, I needed a contract. Hell, and I need to contact Hell and explain what had happened, but I couldn't go to her house. That would be the first place Miles and Malik would go. Miles and Malik, Detective, I think Miles and Detective Malik were officers that that were asking Jack questions. Yeah. I tried I tried to still my racing brain, even to think through the next few steps. Could I call? He probably hadn't tapped the Hell's phone yet. I was hazy on the logistics surrounding this, but I was pretty sure that monitoring phones needed a warrant, and that took time. So Hell's End was probably fairly safe right now. But they could seize her phone records eventually. So whatever I did now, they would discover it, it when they came to comb through her texts and call logs. Did that matter? Try to think it through. This phone, the pink unicorn stickered phone Hell had handed me that morning, was a goner as far as traceability went. I had used it to call too many people connected to me and Gabe. Besides, SIM card was almost certainly registered to Roland's account. It was useless to me from today, which meant I might as well burn it one last time. Okay. I turned it back on and dialed Hell's number. Jack? Her voice her voice when she answered was unpleasant. Cheerful? No. No hint of concern beyond what she already feeling about having her baby sister interviewed by the police. Are you done? Shall I come and collect you? Listen, I said abruptly. Hell, I've done something really stupid. No, she broke in, trying to ask questions. I don't have time to explain now, but I'm in deep shit. You are right. I am a suspect. Okay, Hal said. There was a slight tremor in her voice, but I could tell she was trying to keep calm. Okay, but they haven't arrested you? I didn't give them a chance. I walked out of the interview and they let you go? They didn't exactly know, but they do now. I'm pretty sure that there'll be a warrant out for me. There was a silence at the end of the phone. I could hear her health breathing, and I could tell she was trying very hard to keep hold of herself, not to shout, "What have you done?" down the phone at me. Much as she probably wanted to. I need cash. I said in a charged silence as much as you can spare. But don't go to the bank. Just whatever you can get out of an ATM. If she was being followed, a trip to the bank would be a huge red flag. And warm clothes, and a sleeping bag. Shit, what else? A plan was what I really needed. But right now, I didn't have one. Beyond getting out of London before before I was arrested. Oh, and no more, and one more thing. Bleach for my hair. I mean, I need to get rid of the red. Okay, Hal said tightly. What time and where? I don't know. I try to think. How long do you reckon you'll need to go everywhere to get everything together? You probably shouldn't leave it too late. The more time we give, the more time to get warrants and put under surveillance, the harder this is going to be. I'm wondering because this book is roughly 350 some pages. I wonder if they're going to catch Gabriel's murderer at the very end. I'm just kind of wondering. It's I could hear her voice go faint, and she took the phone away from her ear to look at the time. It's just about half. It's just I like these English people. It's just gone half one now, so it's 1:30. Say an hour to get everything ready, then half an hour, so 3 o'clock to make sure I'm not being followed. But I'll have to pick up the girls at 3. Fuck. That doesn't leave me much time. What time does Rolls finish work? Roland is Helena's husband. Or could you slip out after supper? The thought of finding someone somewhere inconspicuous to hang out, shivering until after dark wasn't very enticing, but it didn't sound like I had much choice. No, wait, Help says slowly. The girls, that could work. What do you mean? I meet you at the school. I really don't think, not at the school, but maybe the shopping center. Excuse me, the one on the main road where the cinema is. We quite often stop in there to go to the loo on the way home or get a snack. And there are loads of entrances and exits. I don't know how. I tried to keep the worry out of my voice, but it it crept in anyway. I don't like the idea of the girls being mixed up in this. What if something goes wrong? How are you going to make sure you're not going to being followed? None of us has a playbook for this, Jack. Hal sounded testy, but below it, I could hear her concern. This is the first time I've done this too, but I feel like sticking to my routine. It's probably the safest, don't you? If I'm under surveillance, then the police will be on red alert for anything out of character, whereas picking up the girls, walking them home, going to the toilet, all of this, all of that is what I do every day. Okay, I said slowly. So what's the plan then? There's a public toilet on the ground floor next to the Urban Outfitters. It's got two entrances, one in the cinema and one into the main shopping center. Okay, we'll meet there. What time? say 3:30. It might be a few minutes after if the girls are tired, but I'll do my best. Okay, I said again. I glanced up and down the street. Hell, I'm going to have to dump this phone. Do you mind? I expect the girls will be crushed at losing their progress on pretty paws, Hal said, with a kind of grim humor. But they'll live. No, go. Don't get caught. Well, that's what I have for you guys today. Um, Next Saturday, if I'm still in this book, I'll read more of it. Otherwise, I'll be in another book of mine. So until then, enjoy your day. I'm gonna go eat some lunch, and I'll see you then. Thanks for coming in, and thanks for watching the replay. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. Love you all. Bye.